Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the November 20th District Advisory Council meeting. At this time, I believe everybody should have received from our esteemed assistant, Ms. Erica Grimm, a copy of the minutes. Just real quick, is anybody here in the room tonight that is a DAC representative not receiving the emails from Ms. Grimm with the agenda, the presentations, other information? 3 people, okay. If you would see Dr. Spiro before you leave tonight, let's work to get that done. He's agreed to take your information. We'll get that cleared up. Ms. Erica Grimm is ill and not able to be here this evening. She's going to review the recording and provide our minutes that way. So I will ask when we make motions that if you could I'll get you to say your name and I'll probably repeat it just to make sure it's easier to pick that all up properly in our minutes when they review the recording to do that. So that being said, if we've had an opportunity, those of you who received them, to review the minutes from our October 16th meeting, I would be happy to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes. Lex Donnelly.
Okay, and that's Lexa Donnelly moving to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? And you are? Vicky Manietta. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. At this time, I'm willing to take public comment from non-DAC members on agenda items for this evening, which today is our FGCU Innovation School presentation. Do any non-DAC members have comment on that? That is somebody just stretching, not somebody coming forward to give comments. My apologies for the perplexed look on my face. Somebody stood up right as I said that, and I thought they were coming forward to give comments. Seeing none, then we'll turn to, we're going to have our board update. Now we've got a changing of the guard here. Miss Gittens is leaving us as our liaison. She's still on the board. I'm not trying to imply anything different, but Miss Gittens is going to move on to another role as board liaison. And I think she has a few words to say, and then we will have some words from Miss Mary Fisher, who is both the incoming chair of the school board and will be our liaison for this school year. So at this time, I would turn it over to Miss Gittens. Is your mic working?
I believe it's on. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm not leaving you. I'm just moving sideways. How's that? I have done DAC for several years, and being on the board, I think it's important to know all aspects of the district as much as possible. So I am going to switch roles as liaison. Ms. Fisher had insurance and benefits, and that's an area that I don't have much expertise in, and I want to gain more expertise. So we have decided to switch. So you will be in wonderful hands, and I believe she's done it before. She's going to speak in just a sec. I will give you a quick update of a couple of little things as the board update. Every week now, one of the new things that we have this year, Lauren Stillwell prepares for us, along with all of the department heads and the superintendent, an update on what is happening in the district. It is wonderful. I go on record to say thank you to Lauren and her team, because it does keep us up to date. This is a huge district, and there's a lot of things going on. So in order for us to be able to go out and say, look at the wonderful things that are going on, we have to hear from Lauren and her team to kind of keep us in line. So just a couple of quick things. And Ms. Fisher can update you on this, but we had, as a part of our legislative agenda, was the mental health bill, and Representative Byron Donalds filed it, and we actually have a number. It is now HB 2849, and we need to give a hand to Ms. Fisher for getting that happening. And she'll tell you more about it later. We had the Gateway High School groundbreaking. How many were there? Anybody? Oh, you should have come. But it was very good. Exciting things happening there. Someone asked me before the meeting about the schools being built in Estero. And right now we are looking at, and Mr. Spiro, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but as a part of our building and needs for new schools, we're looking at building a K through 8. Did they decide K through 8 or elementary and middle?
We'll talk about that.
Okay, so elementary and middle is going to be a part of your discussion, but that's, yes, they are building schools out over there by the park. One of the things we get in our update is student enrollment, and I find this fascinating. Last week, we got the numbers that from November in 2 days, November 11th and 12th, anyone want to guess how many students transferred? Any thoughts?
47.
155. Now, when you talk about the work that we do in this district, think about one student moving. That includes not only teachers and records and transportation, and if they move down the street to another, apartment or something like that, we still have to find the closest bus stop and get the bus to them and transfer everything that they need. So 155 students in 2 days. And I probably, if we look at the data, at the end of the year over the holiday, because it's a long period of time, there's probably going to be quite a bit then too. People will wait until a break in the year. But just think about all that that means to staff and how much work it is. And we are trying very desperately, and you'll hear that from academic services as well, to try to lessen that, because that child that moves, depending on how far and what other school they go to, that's still a break in learning. That's a break in their learning, and they have to, get used to a new teacher and a new class and all of that, and it does affect them academically. So hopefully one day we won't say 155, we'll say 47, okay? The other thing is, and it was interesting, the grade levels. The highest number, there were 48 in the 9th grade, 41 in the 10th grade, and 30 in the 11th grade. That's critical periods. They're getting ready to graduate, and they're transferring to another school. And of course, East Zone had the highest number of, and there was 57. But that's just a little factoid that I think. I don't know if they're going to talk about ESOL. I was talking to Dr. Spiro today, and I asked him, I said, what keeps you up at night? And we talked about the ESOL situation and how, they look at and talk to other states and other districts that have high numbers of ESOL students as well. Because you can't, I remember when I was teaching, we would come back from Christmas break and you have 2 new students in your class and they just look at you because they have no idea what you're saying. And in 3 or 4 months later, you're going to be testing those students. So it creates a lot of angst and figuring out what we're going to do as a district. So I hope I'm getting it in your head as to how much work is going on in this district every day. ESC, let's see. The superintendent has what he calls his Big 5. And you'll be hearing more about that. And every week we get an update. Those are his 5 things that he is watching and making sure that, we're doing everything possible. So you'll hear about the Big 5. We're working on attainable housing. There are a couple of organizations that have approached us talking about whether offering affordable housing for our teachers, and we're looking into it to make sure that everything is credible. So that's something that's coming up. And you're going to hear about inclusive, the Innovation School. This week, I believe it is Inclusive Schools Week. And when you talk a little bit about that, because I asked the question the other day, what does it mean? How are we including schools and all that type of thing? So maybe you can address that as well. That is pretty much, and besides, last night we had our election of officers, and 4 of us are still here for 3 more years. We have election of 3 of the positions coming up this year. So the board is moving and shifting and changing, but we're doing everything possible to take care of all of our students in Lee County. I really appreciate you all being here, especially you teachers and staff that have worked all day, and continue the good work, and I'll be back to visit. And Ms. Fisher, would you like to say anything?
Sure.
That's why I don't sit
It's been a
down
long
there.
day. I want to thank Mrs. Gittens for switching with me. It's been a while since I've been here at DAC, and I really enjoy this because there are representatives from all the schools and all the levels, and I get to learn a lot through this. Not that I didn't learn a lot on insurance task force, because I did. I just want to clarify a little bit about legislatively. Do I have a minute? Okay, so our legislative priority is comprehensive health education, and it's actually asking the state to fund comprehensive health education. So since Parkland, the state has passed 3 rules mandating that we in schools now teach mental health, however they define that, that we teach substance abuse prevention, and that we teach about human trafficking, which is personal safety. So when I was an elementary school counselor, we used to do good touch, bad touch, you know, stranger danger, those kinds of things. So comprehensive health education will encompass all of those new rules, and I understand that there are more to come from the Surgeon General's Committee and the DOE Health Committee. So if we had the funding, we could teach comprehensive health in all schools in a developmentally appropriate scaffolded way. And that includes nutrition, and it includes exercise. You know, we have more children than ever who have chronic illnesses like diabetes, asthma, obesity. So we really need to be doing something in school, starting from kindergarten and moving on. So our ask of the legislature is to give us some money so that we can teach health in all of our schools. And that's more likely than ever to be able to happen because of the fact that now the governor's wife is a big advocate for health education, and they have specified areas that they want taught, and we have until December 1st to send a report to the state to let them know that in fact we are prepared to do that. But they tell us that we have to do things, and they don't usually fund it, and we're asking for that. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. The other thing I wanted to mention was that inclusiveness, more than ever now, we have such a diversity of our population with English language learners, with different races, people from different countries, from different cultures. And then we have a big emphasis now on the gender identity issues. So we will keep you posted as we work on that, but that is being worked on in academic services. We have our master health teacher for the district is down here full-time now, and I understand doing a lot to help us in compliance with the state. Anyway, I'm glad to be here, and I hope that when we come back after the holidays, you'll bring your friends with you so that there'll be more people here, because we need to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for volunteering your time and being involved in your school and your child's education. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to our presentation for the evening on the FGCU Innovation School. We're going to hear from some members of the team, which are Ms. Candace Elevato and Dr. Bethany Quisenberry. And I will turn this over to them now to take it away. And I believe they had a commitment that there are, in fact, I see 3 people. So we will once again have 1 person in each of our breakout sessions for discussions. And if you've looked at the presentation, there's a big question at the end, so there's a chance for everybody to give input. So we're definitely making progress towards our goal of being more interactive with them. So hopefully people have had an opportunity to think about that and suggest ways we can have some community involvement. With that, it does not.
Presenter's choice.
Okay. Ooh, that was loud. I probably don't really need I don't really need a microphone to talk. Taught kindergarten for many years. So, as he said, thank you for having us. I am Bethany Quisenberry, and I am the director for elementary curriculum and instruction. And we did not mean to leave one of our very important members off of the introductions, but I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Helen Martin. I'm the Assistant Director of Professional Development.
I'm so excited to get to see you guys twice in 3 months. Candace Olivedo, Director of Curriculum Instruction.
So we are, as I said, very excited to be here, and I really, really mean that. So we are each on various projects and committees across the district, and this really is the one that we are the most excited about. So we started the Innovation School Committee back last year, 2018, with FGCU, when there was a memorandum of understanding created with FGCU and the Lee County School District. And so when we first started the committee, well, ongoing, we've been meeting twice a month with members of FGCU. You can see their names up on the board. And it's a great variety of different members of the College of Education. So we have Dr. Uni, who is the Dean of the College of Education for FGCU, Dr. Susan Cooper, who is a professor for science and STEAM, Dr. Don Martelli, who is a professor for literacy, Dr. Michelle Stork, who is a professor for educational technology, and then Melissa Meehan is our wonderful research assistant that does a lot of the research and back work for us that we're going to talk a little bit about. And then from the School District of Lee County, we have the three of us, Dr. Spiro, who is our Chief of Academics, Shanna Fletcher and Denise Carlin, who are the Executive Directors for Elementary, as well as Dominic Gemelli, who is one of our planners, and then Kathy Ebaugh, who is the Executive Director for Facility of Planning and Development. These are our core committee members, but as we go through the process, we bring in different people. So our last meeting, we had a real focus on professional development and what that would look like at the school, and so we brought in another professional from FGCU. Whenever there's something that impacts a different department at the school district, we bring those people in as well. And it is our goal that as we move further along, that we will begin to invite in community members, parents, as well as teachers and principals.
Okay. Thank you for having us here tonight. The work of the Innovation School is really grounded upon a larger research foundation released by the National Association for Professional Development Schools, and it's based on 9 essentials of a professional development school. And in short, a professional development school is really a place where the university world and the K-12 world intersect and work together in order to promote the development of effective educators for all students. So the ultimate goal of all of the essentials is really to ensure that every student in every classroom is staffed with an effective educator. And the work takes place in the professional development schools through implementing and trying and researching innovative best practices, and also reciprocal professional development for the K-12 staff as well as the university staff and the pre-service teachers, the collaboration between all of the entities as well as sharing out the best practices. So as you might have noticed, part of what the district is experiencing, as well as the state of Florida and across the nation, is a shortage of individuals who are entering the profession of teaching. And so, that FGCU is not immune to that either through their College of Education. So in a recent state accreditation visit, which I had the opportunity to participate on the committee with, some needs came up out of their program assessment. And so some of those needs included, in order to better meet the needs of their students as they enter the workforce, was to have early immersion in the schools and their programs for both the students and the faculty, to ensure that the students that are enrolled in the College of Education have Title I and non-Title I experience experiences so that they're prepared to effectively teach any student in any classroom wherever they happen to have a job. And then also the programs that they currently have are listed up there. So there are some programs that aren't represented that they don't have secondary graduates in, such as English language arts. And then we have a current program in place with FGCU called the Star Teacher Program. And within that program, it allows really a rock star student in the College of Education who's entering their final internship to go through an application process with the university, go through a rigorous interview process with the district and then with the principal as well. But then the star teacher has the opportunity to serve as the full-time teacher of record in a vacant teaching position for their final semester. It's a paid experience for them, which is great because many of the students in the College of Education, they work part-time at night or on the weekends, but this allows them to focus their full efforts on their final internship. And then it leads to them signing an agreement and working in Lee County and hopefully taking on that position as a full-time teacher. They receive support from the university through a mentor that's assigned to them. Many of them are retired educators throughout the United States, and they go in, they differentiate instruction, they help grade papers, and then they also receive a school-based support system as well as a district-based support system as well. So those are some of the kind of current efforts and current situation that's taking place with FGCU, and I'll show you a little bit more on the next slide about how we're structuring it in order to meet their needs. So we've layered our approach to professional development schools with FGCU, and the layers are listed up there. So between the 3 layers that you see listed up there, each semester, human resources and recruitment and professional development, we work really closely with FGCU to place approximately 200 students between 49 schools in our district, and half of those schools are Title I status. So that's a large volume and interactions taking place between the placements, and we're grateful for all of our schools and all of our cooperating teachers who agree to take part in this initiative. So the first layer there are Block 1 and Block 2. Those are observation days and field experiences. And what those are is that starts with an intro to education class, and it also starts with junior level classes as soon as students enter the College of Education. So before, when students would take courses that related to education, they just like reached out to schools that they had some connection with, maybe they lived by, they drove to, and then usually wait until the end of the semester. I mean, no one who does that, right? So they would wait to the end of the semester to say, hey, I need to meet some observation hours. Can I come by and observe? And the experiences definitely were mixed from the feedback from the students and the schools. So we worked together with FGCU to redesign what that early field experience would look like. And so what it looks like now is we have scheduled days where the university supervisors accompanies the students to the classroom. In the intro classes, it's about 3 days. In the Block 1 and Block 2 field experiences, it's 8 days a semester, so it's 16 days total. They're full days, and have the opportunity to work alongside a really experienced teacher in their area of certification, as well as experience some field experiences such as teaching a lesson or identifying a safety plan. And then after they move through that, they have the opportunity to move into their student teacher placements, where they take on the duties 3 days a week and then move to doing it full time in their final semester. And then we have the last layer there, which is the smallest number of schools, where that's a full-blown PDS school, and that's where all of the activities that I described above would take place, as well as some more collaboration and reciprocal professional development between the university and the school. So the innovation school would lie in that last layer, that PDS school layer, but it would not be the only place where student teachers have opportunities to experience teaching and work alongside teachers and support students just based off of the volume. But it would be our goal that every student that goes through the FGCU College of Education program has the opportunity to have a placement in the innovation school, but it would not be the only placement for them.
I have my own. Okay, so through part of our work, we were able to develop a strategic plan. So one of the first things that we did in our strategic plan was develop our vision and our mission for the work for the school. So our vision is to create an innovative leaders and lifelong learners who positively impact an ever-changing society. The mission's up there. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. But we really are working to focus on the whole child. So when you think of innovation, what does that look like in a school? And how can you ensure that you are meeting the needs of all students, that you are following all state and district expectations, but also really working to look outside of the box. And so that's kind of where we started. If you think about any time that you're looking at a utopia, right, and you have all these wonderful ideas, then you kind of got to bring it down a little bit. And so that's kind of where we were, was looking at if we had our dream school and our dream partnerships, what would that look like, and how can we create that in our community? And then how can we create a school that is a model for other schools across our district, across our state, across the country, that others could come in? And so everything that we work to create, we want to make sure that others can replicate it.
So with that, it was, what does this look like? How do we take that theory and really put it into practice? So while we've been working on this project for a little over a year now, the first 9 months were really everything you see up there on the screen. How do we take that vision, but make sure it's replicable in our other schools? Because it doesn't do us any good if it's standalone and we can't replicate it to all schools, to all of our students to be able to benefit from. So one of the first things we agreed upon was, in order to have this be our innovation school, we still have to follow the state standards. Those are our standards, they are adopted, thus they are going to be our frameworks. We still need to take our state assessment because all of our other schools are still held to that state assessment too. And we want to be able to say, you can do this, we can all do this, and here's the why behind it. We also said it's really important that we're using the district adopted curriculum. So the same textbooks and the same materials, however, it's blending together that art and science of teaching. What are those best practices that we really know about there? And then that's how we landed on the 3E model and the 4C model. And what the 3E model really means is that the students are doing. They are experiencing it. It is meaningful to them in their community and their world. So they are hands-on. They are on the ground, taking on projects that are meaningful to the community that makes sense because it's real world. So it's very problem-based, it's very community-focused, and that's one of the pieces you heard mentioned earlier is we really need this school to have that large partnership between the community and the school. The other piece that I was shocked neither one of my colleagues said yet, because it's one of our favorite pieces to tout on, is that this is brand new innovation. There is not another school like it out there that this is a public school, between a partnership between the school district and a university. All those other ones that are on the university, they're lab schools, so they operate amongst themselves and they have to fill out like a charter application. This one will operate underneath the public school umbrella. So that partnership is a first of its kind, and we're really excited that we get to build it from the ground up. So looking at the 3E model, but embedding in then the 4 Cs. The kids are going to be hands-on, they are going to be experimenting, they are going to be building their learning, but how are they going to be doing that? That's where the creativity comes in. That's where the collaboration comes in, the communication. Those are the big pieces there, but then also making sure that we tie in a big piece was that universal design for learning, because that's what reaches all learners, all students. So those are the pieces of technology. I'm so one who grabs my phone sometimes and hits the microphone button and voice to text, because it's so much faster than my fingers can move because I'm not a native texter. But that used to be thought of as an adaptation. It is, but it's one that we all use. So universal design for learning takes all those pieces and applies it to all learners. So those are the frameworks that we have agreed upon. That's our philosophy as we're building forward with the school.
So in that design, there are some physical building implications that the committee discussed. Obviously, the building is going to have to meet all of the safety and security requirements by the state and by the districts to ensure that our students are safe. And they will need to meet the needs for student enrollment. So all of our schools, you know, we based off of, that's part of the reason why the planners are on our committee, is because based off of the needs in each zone, and they decide how many students, you know, that we're going to need in a school building in order to meet that capacity. So we will have to meet that need. But one of the one of our big needs across the district that we really feel in our areas is the need for space for professional development. And because you'd be surprised, this building looks really big, it's not that big. And so when you're trying to train, we have over 5,000 teachers in our district, so think of how many different trainings are going on at one time. That can prove to be difficult. And so we want to make sure that this school is a place that has a large space for professional development, not only to meet needs across the district, but also to meet FGCU needs, so that when the interns are having professional development or when they need to have meetings, they have a space that they're able to use as well. Office spaces. In just a moment, we're going to talk about some positions that FGCU is bringing to the table that will also actually be housed at the school full time. So there'll be a need for spaces for those individuals, as well as we want to have a big focus, as we've talked about, on community and parent engagement. So there would need to be spaces for those people as well.
Some of the other things we really want is we want the spaces to be versatile. We want it to be a space that maybe is open and large for a whole group setting, but then you can break it down to smallers. So we need those spaces to be utilized for different academies, that maybe it's an offering 1 year, but then I shift that room. So those rooms, we're looking for it to look differently, not just a traditional box, but it opens up, closes down to meet individual needs of whole group, small group, whatever that setting is. And then the other big piece, as we've talked about the partnership with FGCU, is we want there to be able to have a space for observation. So as you think about it, when you have a professional development hub, so teachers within the district and interns, it's great to go into the classrooms and you can interact with students one-on-one and really find out what are they doing and working on. But then when you want to collaborate again as an adult, you have to step outside the room and you no longer can have a view of what's going on. So we'd like it to have a centrally located pod, and classrooms are all around. So you have a space there where interns or teachers can observe and have conversations without interrupting the flow of the actual classroom itself. So that's another important piece to us.
If I can add one more thing, another big piece of our discussion has been the need for pre-K, and for this center to be a pre-K hub, so that we can have additional Head Start, that our traditional pre-K programs, Head Start, ESE, VPK, but also fee-based programs that, that we can begin to pilot to build our pre-K program.
She set herself up well for this slide.
Oh, it's my slide. So again, remember, we were Utopia, and we really started talking about, and we did a lot of research. I didn't mention on my earlier slide that we visited multiple schools across our district. We went outside throughout the state, and we actually even traveled to lab schools across the country to see how they were doing things in different ways that we could replicate. And so some of the, in our research, some of the options that we came across were different ways that we could meet the needs of the student enrollment. So one option that we discussed, because we know that this school needs to be a pre-K to 8, but what does that structure look like? So we talked about the traditional pre-K to 5, 6 to 8, elementary and middle school. Then we talked about pre-K to 8, so we have a couple of those across our district that are like North Fort Myers. I think I saw the principal in here somewhere. North Fort Myers Academy, they are pre-K all the way to 8. And then also a unique structure would be pre-K to 3, which some of our other counties have primary schools, and then a 4 to 8. After much research and consideration, the recommendation of the committee is to stay with the pre-K to 8.
So all the research that we looked at really pointed to that it's not so much about the grade configuration band, but where the break is, and that continuity of the relationships between the students, the teachers, the administrators, and those pieces. So looking at it, all of the structures really pointed to research that if you can have that pre-K-8 piece, that's where to have it, because the breakdown typically happens from elementary to middle school. And that's one of the benefits as we look at within our own structure, as we build our relationships vertically from our pre-K through 12, is that making that connection there. So again, having that perfect utopia of having the time to research in those pieces, that's where the committee really landed for a pre-K-8 program.
So as Candace discussed, it is a public school with a partnership with FGCU. So as a public school of Lee County School District, it would follow all of the same organizational structure as all of the other public schools. So at the top would be our school board. And then in the leadership committee that is school-based, we would have the principal, our school district of Lee County representative, which would be our executives or our chiefs, but then also the FGCU College of Education dean would be part of that leadership structure, as well as the overall leadership team. So that would be the teacher leaders in your building, and then the college professors that are working in the school. Going over to the teachers and the staff, the pre-service teachers, which would be the interns, and then the clinical faculty with FGCU.
Okay. And so you've heard a lot tonight about the team and the committee really wanting the practices that were taking place in the school to be replicable. So the recommendations of the committee is that the school would follow kind of Lee County's budget allocation model for staff, also for job descriptions, and then also for evaluations. And really the goal of this would be to not create an environment where it was so outside of what the parameters that currently take place in public schools are, but that it was inside and it was recognizable to other teachers and leaders within the district. But then the innovative practices and the innovative processes for adapting to some of those parameters would be what would promote the student learning as well as the educator learning within the building. We would also follow the Talc and Spout contracts within the building, but since would be a professional development school, there would be a need to have the teachers agree to attend additional training or have the opportunity to have professors, have college students, possibly have community members and other educators within the district come in and out of their classroom. My background is a middle school teacher, so you have to be comfortable, right? I know sometimes my middle school students would be distracted sometimes by like a bird flying by the window. So you just have to make sure you can be adaptable and relatable to that in order to work in the building. So it's also the committee's recommendation that the Innovation School starts as a new school with a new staff, with a principal and a leadership team that's able to hire educators and support staff and everyone within the building with kind of the understanding and that high level commitment and agreement to collaboration, observation, and to innovation. So on the next slide here, Bethany alluded to at the talk of office spaces is FGCU has agreed to provide additional staffing for the Innovation School. So the clinical faculty that would be staffed by FGCU is listed up there in the number, and you can see there's a trend that takes place with the clinical faculty taking place there. So focus on early childhood education, as well as science, technology, engineering, math within the classroom, reading, literacy, and then supporting students who maybe are English language learners, as well as who might experience a learning disability within the classroom. There's also a staff position from FGCU, the PDS coordinator that would kind of support or coordinate all of the student teachers within the building and provide supervision for them while they're on site. But overall, this staff would work a 12-month contract, which would enable them to provide a lot of professional learning to some of our district teachers and our district leaders over the summer. And then throughout the school year. And then also, again, the work of the Innovation School, we hope, would generate best practices that we could utilize throughout the district. But through having the partnership with FGCU and the clinical faculty, this staff would have the time, the resources, and the expertise to conduct research about the practices that are taking place in the building, share them within our district, share them within our state, and then share them hopefully across the nation. Because as Candace and Bethany mentioned before, this would be the first public innovation school of its kind in the country. So one of the location considerations we have with the Innovation School is wherever is ultimately decided that the school will live, that there is some proximity to FGCU. As I mentioned at the start of the presentation, is right now you're experiencing a decline in students who are choosing education as a profession as their first piece. But we think and we know the work that will take place in this school will really be exciting to students who are even considering education as a profession. And a lot of the students at FGCU don't have vehicles, so transportation for them can be a barrier. So wherever the school is located, that there was maybe bus access or proximity to FGCU, so that the students could carpool together, and that location doesn't become a barrier for them getting excited and choosing the profession, as well as the opportunity for not only the clinical and faculty to be embedded within the work taking place at the Innovation School, but the other faculty that works at FGCU full-time would have the opportunity to come and provide support as well.
So with that, while we don't want transportation to be a barrier for the interns there also, we also don't want transportation to be a barrier for our students, because we really want, as we consider this school to be representative of all students of Lee County, not just one population or one zone. So what you see up on the screen is, on the last screen, there was a bullet that said we're really growing in the East and South zone. And you've heard our board talk about that before, as we are growing at capacity and beyond capacity in many of our schools. So we know there's a need in both the East and the South zones for additional schools. But what we're asking for our recommendation, and as Bethany alluded to earlier, our team is growing because this is an area now outside of the curriculum part of it, is we're looking though that school is open to multiple zones, that it crosses different barriers, and how can we look at that? So you're pulling proximity, but you're doing it in a different, innovative way. So as we go down this road, we will include others on the committee who can help with that. So with that, we leave you with a question that you are going to work on in your breakouts and hopefully provide us some good feedback. But it's, as community members, how can you help us be an active part in this innovation school so it truly does look different than our traditional schools? How can we think differently from what we are currently doing?
Thank you.
We do have some time left in our schedule before our breakout sessions. Are you folks willing to take questions now that are applicable across? So if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd ask if you come up to one of the podiums, or we can give you a mic. Either way, I'm happy to start with a question I had while the esteemed Mr. Hall comes forward. I was very pleased to hear you talk about if I can pronounce the word correctly, the replicability of what you're doing. I'd personally like to see that more clearly set forth in your mission statement, if not your vision statement. You clearly, it was throughout your entire presentation that that's the goal of it, but I was surprised when I read the mission statement that wasn't stated there, because I personally think that's clearly, it's core to what you're saying, and I would encourage you to add that. That's a comment I had, and then something else I would suggest that you consider for a school like this. I would almost think about there being a requirement for parent involvement. Or at least a request for it, or a strong encouragement. Again, I don't want to create a barrier to people that don't have the ability to provide that, but certainly having some sort of acknowledgement from families of their need to be involvement, I think, is a great way to get the community involved. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hall for his comments or questions, and then looks like we have a little line forming.
Good evening, how are you? I'm sorry, that's kind of loud.
So I'm not the only one, okay.
Cedric Hall with Gateway. About 8 slides back, there was on the considerations to meet the needs of the student enrollment. On the one that we received in the email, if you go back one more forward, it had the options on there, but your PowerPoint was different, so I just want to, this is just a clarification. So the recommendation is pre-K to 8, because on that slide it wasn't pre-K to 8. So I just wanted that confirmation there. Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for a great presentation. Dante Joffe from Fort Myers Technical College. Just a quick question. What has been the receptivity on the part of the state as far as funding? Because this is an outstanding program. I was talking to Dr. Spiro before the presentation, much needed. Just curious.
So part of FGCU's legislative efforts in the past year was to secure legislative assistance and funding for the clinical faculty positions, and they were successful in that request. So some of the positions are in the process of being advertised and then starting the interview process for that right now.
I know, she jumped in front of me.
Mr. Hall, just to go back to your question as well, so that recommendation's in our notes, but because you don't get to see our notes section, we put it on the screen, and we'll make sure you have an updated copy that has it on the slide as well. We'll make sure that gets posted. Thank you. You're welcome.
So I just have a brief question, and I'm piggybacking on Scott's question about parent involvement. So what has been the involvement of the broader community and parents in this planning process?
So we haven't gotten there yet, where there, in the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned that we're still in the beginning steps. And so as we continue to move forward, we'll begin to invite parents, community members, teachers, principals, all of the stakeholders in, into our committee. But one of the things that we did in our planning is went to different places, such as, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Grace Place in Collier County. That is a community center and has an abundance of parent involvement opportunities, as well as community opportunities. It's just outstanding. If you've never been out there, it's amazing. And so trying to replicate some of those things where you have adult ed classes, you have, you build, so somebody mentioned, I think it was you, how are you going to ensure that parents do participate? And I think it's about opportunity. So in our planning, we have to ensure that there are opportunities for parents that they would want to come in, and that we provide those opportunities at all different times so that it's not a barrier for any of our parents, as well as community. So at Grace Place, one of the things that they do is they have partnerships with, such as, it would be equal to the Southwest Florida Symphony. And so part of the members of that symphony's contract is that they come and they teach an after-school class on playing the instruments and on vocal. So making sure that we go out and we really try to get commitments from our community to bring them into the school, and then that can be replicated across our district as well. Did that answer your question, Ms. Fisher?
Yes, it did. And I just have one other. So when you talked about the zoning and the where we're going to pull from, did you include the West Zone in that?
Not in the initial map. So the initial map is the east and the south zone, since those were our schools that were overcrowded at the moment. However, the conversation, the recommendation from the committee is that it cross all zones the way Dunbar High School does. So Dunbar High School being open to all students and all zones. One of the things we have to work through, though, is the high school is a little different. Transportation, students being older, being able to get themselves there. We're talking about a K-8, which means transportation needs to be provided by family members or us. So how does that look? So that's where we've now involved the planning pieces, Dominic and Kathy, to start thinking innovative as well. We want it to be replicable, but we want it to be open and represent all of our students. So we're in those pieces now, but that is our desire.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And going back to the community piece as well. So this committee has been on a tour. We've gotten to present this to the board for their feedback. We've presented it to FGCU for the partnership for their feedback. And you guys are really our first community group that is seeing it. So that's why tonight in your breakout sessions, we are really looking for your feedback as well. Because every time we get a piece of feedback, it allows us to think differently and reflect to go, is there something we haven't thought about? Or how does it build on what we have in there? So again, you all are our first community partners. So thank you, and we're looking forward to your feedback.
Hi, my name is Alicia Clark, and I represent the Sanibel School. And sorry for being late. So I might have missed some of this, but in terms of what will help to bring students to your school would be aftercare. That is huge. We had a population challenge this year with our own school, and offering and suggesting aftercare with our rec center really was helpful. Also, I know that FGCU also has an occupational therapy department. I'm a speech-language pathologist, so offering some therapies after school too would also be beneficial to the school, I think. And that would get more students involved.
Thank you.
You ready for me? Okay, I have two quick ones. One, you know, with the teaching shortage, I know the partnership is with FGCU, but is there the potential of reaching out to the teaching students at FSW as well?
Currently, through our practice that we have in partnership with FGCU, we also have a similar partnership with FSW. Their program's a little bit smaller. It's just limited right now to elementary education. So each semester they graduate about 50 students. So we work to place their students in our schools as well. And they have another grouping of schools. They have about 30 schools that we place their College of Education students from for their internship placements. So that could be a possibility also. And some of our schools that currently host interns host students from FGCU, from FSW, and then we also have partner schools that just represent online programs throughout the state of Florida where students may live in the area, but they're studying online to be teachers, and then we place them as well throughout the district.
Okay, and the last question, there was a lot of discussion about the building design, and at one point, we were looking at our template per se. We have a template for elementary, middle, and high, and taking that template and kind of renovating portions of it. Are we at that point, or are we talking about a totally different architectural design?
So we haven't gotten to that point yet. That is why Kathy Ebaugh and Dominic are on the committee with us. And so we've been going through different financial implications as well as implications too. Can we have all of the things that we want using those models? And so we're still working through that. In fact, I have a meeting with Kathy next week, and we're going to start mapping out each month of what we're focusing on, and then the follow-up to try to get us moving a little faster with that piece.
Thank you. Great job.
And one of the pieces also that we worked on our committee, we've had a lot of conversations with FGCU about, is we have certain funding that we get from the state and then from the district to build a school and to build a location. So if there were enhancements that we wanted to the building in order to accomplish the goals of the school beyond what would normally come stock with a building, that FGCU would really work hard to do the fundraising piece in order to enable some of those add-ons to occur.
If I can just add one more thing to, I think it was 2 questions ago about the before and after school program. Some of the other designs that we have looked at is we found different schools that have, for their after school program, they have high school volunteers that come and they help to run it. And for the first year or 2, they're just volunteers. The next year they get paid. And if they stay with it for their 4 years, I think it's 4 years, it might be 3, then they qualify for a scholarship with FGCU.
So my name is Kelly Powell. I'm here tonight representing Three Oaks Middle, and I also have a student at Estero High School as well. So my question, one comment, and the question really ties into funding. So I've heard a couple of pieces of it so far. One is that FGCU is funding a number of faculty positions, and they've already secured that, and that there's some possibility of additional funding if there's some innovative architectural elements that are needed. But how does the physical building for this school and any teachers and staff that would come from the district fit into the current picture of new schools and new things that are happening in our district? Like, I don't, is there already funding for that? Is that something that would have to be added to new schools that are already happening? How does that work?
You mean for this? Yeah. For the schools that are being built.
Right, so I don't know, I'm not super knowledgeable about what's coming in the pipeline for our district school-wise, but I know that there's always stuff in the line of like what's coming and which zone it's coming in, and like how does this school kind of fit in with that?
So this is one, since we have a need for additional schools, it is on that lookout, that 5-year plan piece there. So falling into that timeline, Dominic has provided us the numbers of where we're at capacity in both the east and the south zones. So it is in the pipeline of that plan. It's not there yet, so we know it is coming, but it'll fall into the normal planning just as we would a new school, as we are with Gateway High School right now, with the middle school that's been out with the 2 schools in the south. So it'll fall into the same timeline. It'll get added in from our operations department, and then hiring of staff and everything would follow the same processes and procedures that we do for our current schools. So one of the reasons, as Dr. Martin had mentioned, about hiring and opening a brand new school though, is because this school will look very different and have a lot of people in there. It's going to be a set of teachers that has to have that open mind, as she had mentioned, that it really is teachers who know what they're getting themselves, like, wow, I'm always going to have somebody walking into my classroom, not just every once in a while. And it's going to be other teachers learning, and it's going to be students learning, and this really becomes like a teaching school. So it will follow the same protocol process for opening.
Okay, thank you. And the comment or the suggestion is just, I feel like in addition to some of the innovations in curriculum and learning that obviously would be part of this, I think a really important element of that is some of the things that are happening like societally and culturally with our kids. Things like the really wise use of technology. So we've gone so technology focused in the school, which is amazing, but at the same time we see that even our elementary age and certainly our middle school kids are just getting sucked into technology, you know, in their private and personal and school lives with phones and those kinds of things. So the balance of those types of things, and also the social emotional learning and the mental health issues. Unfortunately, in our society right now, we've seen so many challenges in those areas. And I feel like in school, unfortunately, schools are having to take a role in that, maybe that families were handling in the past. But that's so important, and I feel like it's going to even become more important by the time a school like this is actually coming to fruition. So just hope that as we move this forward, and maybe that's an area too that others can give feedback in the breakouts. But I think that's so important in learning, and really is a really important area of innovation and learning that we could see in a school like this.
Yes, we agree, and that is part of the reason why some of these positions are there, to ensure that we cover all of our bases for all aspects of learning. We also have a strong focus on project-based learning, which brings in the collaboration and the social emotional and learning from each other, and the ability to train the teachers on how do you ensure that, yes, you're doing research, but the bulk of the project is students working together, not relying on one-on-one, you know, with your Chromebook. So,
hi, I'm Julie Martinez. I'm with Orangewood Elementary. So just for clarification, is so those in a teaching program, as they come into the innovative school, they're not yet certified as teachers. This is like an internship for them. Is this taking the place of a regular internship, a teaching internship? Or is it taking the place, or is this in addition to?
This wouldn't take the place of a regular internship. It would be a placement for one of their internships right now. So through each level and each course that they take in the program, they're required to do a certain number of hours and certain number of days for field experiences or student teaching placements, so that each of the students would have the opportunity to have a placement at the innovation school.
And now, how long would they be able to teach at this school before becoming certified?
So right now, the way the current program works is that you have the field experiences, which are 8 days the fall semester, 8 days in the spring semester. That's your junior year, so that's 16 days total. And during that time, you're 100% with an experienced, certified, highly effective teacher in your grade level and subject area, and they're kind of the guide alongside with you and coaching you as you're delivering lessons or working with small groups of students. Then as you move into your senior year, if you're enrolled in courses in the College of Education, what you do is you do a student teacher placement. And so the student teacher placement is your internship. The level 1 is 3 days of teaching, and that's really designed as a co-teach experience. So you're gradually taking over more and more responsibilities in the classroom during your senior year, but the highly effective certified teacher is still with you in the classroom each day. And then as you move into the final semester, that's where you go full takeover, but that's still really designed as a full co-teach model. So gone are the days where there are some people, I was a career changer, so my bachelor's degree is not in education, but I've heard from some of my colleagues who do have a bachelor's degree in education that their cooperating teacher, when they got to their final student teacher internship, was like, here you go, you're on your own, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go, you know, run out and grade papers and do this. But those days are really gone. I think when it comes to student learning, it's really all hands on deck. So it's designed as a co-teach model, so both educators will be in the room.
And then also, does this have to be a space that has to be built? I mean, could you look at renting space? You know, I don't know what you're saying you have funding for, you know, from FGCU. It sounds like you guys are ready to go, but you don't have a space. And so would it be possible to rent space? And then do you also have like a timeline to see after so many years your success versus a traditional school?
So we talked about that in the very beginning, and We actually looked at some different spaces, across the county that were available, but then we moved back towards building a space for fiscal reasons.
I gave it back to him. Okay, but this is a brand new program, so now it's money being invested in a building, and you're really not, you don't know what the outcomes will be yet, or how widely accepted it will be with parents, or, you know what I mean? So, and you're saying you want it out in that area. Is it possible?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say,
to look at that again.
The school has to be built regardless if it's an innovation school. So it is our plan that the innovation school will be housed in the school that's going to be built anyway.
Anyway?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And you are correct, although the school would be unique in that it would be a public school operating as a lab school. A lot of the recommendations we're making for curriculum, for instruction, for student enrollment, and then professional development are grounded in research-based best practices. So although there might not be one location that has all of those things taking place in it, in the United States, there is research to support the individual practices throughout the country.
All right, that takes us, I think, thank you for the presentation. We can get a round of applause, perhaps. And that takes us to our breakout sessions. Our elementary group will be in the Media 1. Do you folks know where that is, Media 1? If not, can I get Dr. Carlin has graciously volunteered to show everyone where Media 1 is. Our middle breakout will be in the Training Room A, and high school in Training Room B, which are right outside the second set of doors here. All right, and then we'll see everyone back here at 7:45. You folks that said you're not getting the emails, in your breakout session, the notebooks have cards in them that you can use for questions. You can fill out your name, school, and email, and let's make sure we get that to Dr. Spiro, and we'll make sure you get on the email list, okay? People not getting emails, fill out a question card with your name, email, and school, and we'll get that taken care of. Welcome everybody back from our breakout sessions, and we're going to start with a report from our elementary school breakout group.
Elementary never got off the topic of our presentation tonight. Mostly our concerns were about the final location and when the program grows, will it be able to encompass more of the county and be able to serve more of the county, and that includes where the final location is, how will it serve the county. And then with the prompt question from Ms. Quisenberry, some of our suggestions, we have lots of suggestions. Some of our suggestions include how to make this school, they were all about how to make the school truly innovative, and a lot of ours centered around the time for the school, including start and end times, as well as, and where is Cedric so people don't jump him, year-round school. And we also had a lot of suggestions for how the parents could be involved, including education for the parents, homework help for the parents. We had a great suggestion about actually live streaming or recording the lessons so the parents could teach themselves, some learn along with the students, and also including family dinners in after-school activities so that parents didn't have to worry about missing that time or that cost. That is the most that elementary got through tonight. We didn't actually have any other topics.
Move right to middle school.
Thank you. My name is Lexa Donnelly, and I represent Harnsmarsh Middle. Just like with elementary, we did not go any further than the topic presented today. However, the discussion was really informational. The things that we really hit on, first of all, about planning and how many years out the school is going to be. So it looks like it's going to be perhaps the third school that's coming up. So right now we have what used to be high school MMM, which is now having broken ground. The district then in the next 5 years was due to have 2 more middle schools and an elementary. This means that this school would potentially be the third school, perhaps 5 years out. So it would take both the elementary and the middle school. The majority of the discussion, however, was will the children be getting the same education, how to incorporate things like discipline and mental health, how whether or not there will be equity in dealing with students. We had a discussion regarding students who are unruly, students who may not want to participate versus those who do, and making sure that they are all able to get the same quality education, and making sure that the district is going to be open to feedback, and the school will be open to feedback with community meetings, and that they're willing to collect data in order to improve the school on a continual basis, and how to improve parent involvement, especially in the East Zone, but in the entire district. It's not something that's strange. We all know that many of our schools struggle to have parent involvement on a continual level. So if this school is going to potentially have a strong parental involvement, how is that going to come about, and how is it going to be sustained? Let's see, sorry. We had 2 pages. Yeah, I know. Those are all the PowerPoints, though, Scott. We need to make sure that we are not just, I believe it was choosing from one type of education, but also potentially pulling students at FGCU who are psychology majors, who are taking arts classes, and different types of students to help enrich the program as part of that continual evolvement. So then the rest of it really came down to how to make the school work with some of the current issues that we have at our other schools, differing times, staggering buses, et cetera.
Thank you, and that brings us to high school.
My name is David Rodriguez. I'm representing East Lee County High School. And one of the first things that was mentioned to Candace as she was in there was providing a 1-minute presentation of what the school is, especially for people who are in the community that do not know what the school is really about. For those in the school district, we may have a better understanding of what the school is and what it's for, but for community members, it's important to be able to find like a 1-minute or a synopsis of what we could be able to tell community members so they can understand what the school is and the purpose for it. I'm not going to replicate the answer that she gave because she just explained it way too well than I could ever, so thank you. One of the things, the questions was, it looked like this school might benefit the college more than our own students, but she did mention how the research-based strategies that would be used at the school are research teaching that cannot be done right now with our current resources, and this school would be able to provide that. And especially with the amount of students that it would be, which would be at capacity and a full school, just like all the other schools, having those extra resources on site would be beneficial. And then the type of professional development that the teachers on site would be able to get from those that are coaching them. And she mentioned that side-by-side coaching is going to be important, but they're also going to be doing it in innovative ways. And there were a lot more questions, but that was the gist of it.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, so I believe that brings us to, if we have any non-DAC members that would like to give us comments on non-agenda items. All right, that brings us to good of the order. Do any of our members have a good of the order? Oh, you're saying no, I thought you were saying. Does anybody have any comments they want to make for the good of the order? I have one. I want to thank Dr. Spiro for really continuing what we have going on with Dr. Carlin. I made the comment myself that taking a look at the minutes, I think any of you that, I see some faces that I know have been here a number of years like I have, I see a big difference. And I hope you folks do. And if you appreciate it when you get the chance, when you see Dr. Spiro, tell him we really appreciate what he and his staff are doing. I think hopefully all the breakout sessions appreciate having the executive directors there, but I'm really seeing a difference in the responses we're getting. I think we're getting much more direct responses to the questions, and I hope that's also helping the district inform what they're doing. So I think today felt very interactive. The feedback I got from the speakers was they felt this was beneficial to them. I asked them to share that with their colleagues. That to me, this meeting is why I agreed to be the chairperson and keep doing this, is I want to see us continue this interactivity. So thank all of you for providing them that feedback so they feel it was worthwhile, so that they want to come here and get this feedback and we start to create this synergistic relationship that we're looking for. So that was the comment I had. Does Mr. Citrick Hall? I'll get yelled at for the recording.
I will be loud where you can hear me. Just to piggyback what he said is that the minutes that we get in the email, you can actually take that back to your SAC and add it to the agenda. You don't have to say anything. You can just add it on there. So just use that.
All right, anyone else? I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn. Dorina Camarado from Lexington gave me our motion to adjourn. Ms. Lexa Donnelly seconded it. All those in favor? All right, and we will see everybody January 15th of 2020 is our next meeting. Thank you very much. Have a great holidays, everybody.